this, and make sure to watch to the very end, because that is where I'm going to whatever the fuck, I don't know. Welcome to Wendie's Watercolor and Wisdom, and today we are going to paint this beautiful little gem. And if you recall from the last video when I did some watercolor paint and play, and I was just kind of playing around and having a good time with the different things, pictures I got off of Pinterest, and made it my own and changed it up a little bit, and then I did it again quite well, and I really love this one. I really love this one. And then I did this one, redid this one again. So this is what we're going to definitely do for the retirement center, and what you and I are going to paint together today. So grab your brushes and grab your paper, grab your supplies. I'll list the colors that I'm using just as we get started, and we're good to go. I'm really excited. I hope you enjoy. All right, the colors we're going to use today are Cobalt Teal, Quinacridone Purple, Green Gold, Prussian Blue, and that's it. And the Prussian Blue is only for mixing. So that's all the colors that we're going to use today, and to make this beautiful thing happen. And we're going to kind of make it easy too, in the sense of just those, what, 1, 2, 3, 4 colors. How cool is that? And off we go. No drawing is required for this today, because it is kind of at your own leisure. So first thing you want to do is wet down the paper. It can go edge to edge, or just do this kind of crazy messy, leave edges. You know, you want to leave a little bit of a border. There's no real rhyme or reason. And remember, so yeah, you don't want to go to the edge, just you want to leave that, what do they call that, a décolleté or a rough edge or live edge? I'm not even sure. But you just want to make sure that everything is really saturated. And I don't know if you can see this in the camera, but you can get an idea of where all your wet is by holding it up to a light, getting an idea if you've got it where you want it. And I'm pretty happy with that. It's really saturated. And that background, this background color is a mixture between green gold and cobalt teal. So in your palette, I'm just picking up some green gold and mixing that up, grabbing some of the cobalt teal. Oops, pulled it right out of my palette. There we go. And mixing that up. And you know what? Because that's such a bright, see how bright that is in comparison? That was almost neon. I like that, actually. I'm going to pick up just a little bit of Prussian blue to mute it back. Now, I chose Prussian blue. There we go. I'm liking that. In order to, I might even pick up a little bit of that Quinacridone, because I want to mute it up. Ah, yeah, there we go. So if you want a really bright background, then just go with those colors. You saw how that changed. That's the Cobalt Teal, Green Gold, and Prussian Blue. If you don't have those colors, green, or like a lime green, a teal, and a dark blue. That's what we got going on there. So, and you just kind of apply very, very light. And remember that watercolor will dry about 30 to 50% lighter than what is on the paper. So even though this might look a little dark to you, it's actually going to dry up pretty nice and be a pretty light color. what I'm doing is just tapping off my brush just to kind of make it where it's damp and just lifting where I want to. Now with this Danielle Smith green gold, you can even see some of the golds coming through in this granulation. It's kind of cool. I'm also using Arches 100% watercolor paper. 100 and what is that? What is that? I can never quite remember the words. It's 100% cotton, 140 pound, 300 GSM. So that's the what I'm using. And what I've done is this 9x12, cut it in half, and that's what I'm using there. So, we've already got the background done. Now you have to, as my Lacey says, gotta wait for it to dry or make it dry. And you can just use a little blow dryer, a little heat gun, what have you. A little too much noise. So I'm gonna go ahead and pause it, and I'll be back in a second, and we'll finish this up and do the next layer after it's dry. Okay, so something that I noticed is this washi tape is just not working. So I'm going to peel that off. I'm really sad because I really like that color. When I put the heat to it, it just buckled up and just came off. There's all kinds of different washi tape, and each one of them seem to have a different adhesion, and some tolerate heat more than others, and so forth and so on. So I'm just going to go ahead and replace that with my tried and true. I tried to make it pretty for you guys. I really did. I just wanted to use a pretty washi tape, but on a bigger piece like this, it just, half the time it works, half the time it don't, depending on the brand that you're using. So we're just going to have to deal with the dark blue, okay? Can you handle it? I think so. So it's completely dry now, and with the time that it's taking me to tape this down, it's definitely going to be fully cooled off by the time I get finished. Because if you use a heat gun or anything like that to dry your material, you definitely want to make sure for that paper to cool off before you start painting on it. So, and this is just 3M. Everybody's got a different answer, but this is the 3M painter's tape, and it's the original version. I've tried the easy off, or that's it's removable or whatever they want to call it. And to be honest with you, it did entirely too much lifting. It was kind of bad. It lifted up so much that it was as bad as that washi tape. It was awful. So, all right, there we go. So with the blue tape, sorry about that, guys, but I think that's a good, I decided to leave it in there so that you could see sometimes what happens when the best intentions is set. Now see how much lighter that is? Are we ready for painting now? You see, and it's a little different color than this one because I mixed. So it's always going to be a little bit different. Now it's going to darken up. We can get that darker and whatnot down in this area if we want to. That's not a problem. But, okay, so there's our background. We're going to do those splatters in a little bit. That's not going to happen right away. So where do you start? Do you start with the flowers, or do you start with the leaves and whatnot? I personally like to start with the flowers. Why? Why do you ask? Because then I can bring the stems up to the flowers and kind of underneath. And if I go fast enough, I can even get a little bit of a bloom of color. So let's pick up our teal. We'll start with teal. Can you see that on that? Yeah, you can. Okay. So you can use a smaller brush if you want. I just really like this brush because it does everything. And I can even do the leaves and everything else with it, and I just love this brush. It is just my favorite. So for these flowers, and I'm not going to follow exactly because that's no fun, I just make a little hoop, little pointed hoop. I'm a little too dry, and there's nothing really special about this. I just did this, kind of like a half moon type of thing, or a half of a circle. and then you just bring it down to a point. And you just repeat that with your teal wherever you want. I've got one down here I see in the original. And make the half loop and then fill her in. Now you got a little flower. And let's do one here. Like a half moon and fill it in. And my paint consistency is probably, I'd say cream, I guess. Now we're going to have this one go off to the side a little bit. So it's kind of pointing in that direction. And just little brush strokes to make the top of that flower. Round out that bottom a little bit. Just do it to the shape that you like. You know, I'm up here going, I think that one's just too pointed, so I'm going to round that one out. You can go back through and touch them up any way you want to. And then finally, we'll do one more, because I always like to keep them uneven, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the colors, you know, odd and even. I'm going to take this sucker right up into here like I did on the original one. So the wisdom, the authentic self, the one thing that I recognize that I'm struggling with while I'm making these videos and trying to learn how to get my content, my joy, my love out on the internet is just being my authentic self. I mean, don't you think that's just like one of the hardest things in the whole wide world to be sometimes, especially if you make any kind of content? And it's like, I want to be funny, or I feel like, I swear, I feel like I'm talking at people sometimes. Oh, and I hate that. I hate that so much. But, you know, that's part of this learning curve, is for me to be more comfortable on the audio video. And I don't know why, because I'm a pretty upbeat kind of gal and not shy at all. And I think I think some of my students come to my workshops as much for my Wendie antics as they do for the learning. I swear to you. I think if we didn't do anything but sit around and BS and me be silly, I think they'd have just as much fun. So bear with me as I'm learning my footing on this watercolor training, teaching online journey. A lot of times I feed off of the people that I'm teaching. So here I am pretty much all by myself teaching you. And it's not as easy as some of these folks on the TikToks, like Lacey. I mean, oh my gosh, the Rebel Unicorn, she makes it look so natural and so easy. I'm so jealous. So, okay, so there's another one. Again, this paint is like cream. I'm going to do a pretty big one right here in the middle. And anyway, I just hope that what I'm teaching you will definitely offset my tone that just doesn't feel like me. I mean, I'm kind of a weird, crazy person, and it doesn't feel like it always comes through when I'm doing these tutorials and things, but I'll find my footing. And in the meantime, hopefully I'll just keep teaching you something fun. And notice how I'm just kind of randomly putting these and also in different directions. So that's kind of important, because you don't want it to look too uniform, you know. And to be honest, I don't know about you, but that's like one of my biggest struggles when I'm drawing or painting, is trying not to make everything look uniform. I'm naturally a type A linear personality, and I've only been able to enjoy this extreme creative side to myself over the last 4 years, 4.5, almost 5 years actually. So it's kind of fun. It's like I'm re-establishing myself as a human being and just letting go and releasing. So that's 3, and here's, I'm gonna put this one here. So it's kind of a fun journey, and I think each and every one of us has the opportunity to reinvent ourselves every single day. As a matter of fact, our cells are constantly replacing. So what is it? Every 7 years, you're a new person physiologically. So, you know, I think I'm having a little bit of fun reinventing myself as an online teacher, somebody who can bring something to you that'll benefit even though I'm not here, you know, physically with you. So in my other life, in my work life, I was a business and life coach, and I did quite a bit of speaking, and I did a podcast and all of that kind of stuff. So I should be more comfortable with this whole talking and doing this, but it's weird because it's like my left brain cannot get a hold of what my right brain is doing. I don't know, but it's an interesting ride, and I think the best part of it is just going ahead and embracing it. I'm not gonna stress over it. I'm not gonna freak out and worry too terribly much about if I do these videos perfect, if I do them good, bad, or indifferent. What I want to do is be able to teach you a process, and I promised my students that I would. So that's really what I'm doing here. Okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so that's a total of 10. So does that make it off balance? I don't know. But I like the way those look. And what I need to do now is get my, every color is so different. Prussian blue is stiff. So I sprayed my, my palette before I got started. But my goodness, it's still, my Prussian blue is still really hard in the pan. Okay, so I picked up some Prussian blue. I'm going to put it over to the edge because I don't know if I got too much or too little. And what I'm trying to do is darken. I want the stems to be the darkest. So remember I used some of that purple to make it more olivey. I'm going to do that again. I'm going to pick up some more Prussian blue. And a little bit more of that to bring out the green. The green gold will pop that green again. And I'm going to use this whole mess to lighten and darken the colors in the different areas that I'm working, because I want to make the leaves and do the splatter and all that next. Okay. All right, you ready for this? So the first step is to get the stems coming up to. See how it bled like that? Isn't that cool? It won't do it on the ones that are wet or dry, but it's not a uniform thing, perfection that we're looking to get. It's just a nice explosion when it happens. It's kind of fun. I could wet all of those again and make sure that happened with every one of them, but you know, I think that just letting it be random is enough. Just seeing what happens. Okay, so this guy is going to go from here to here. I kind of like to map it out so I know where to skip. So it's going to stop and start again. That's a nice long one. No wonder it's leaning, right? Okay. Probably didn't even need to load that up, but because this brush just holds water all day, every day. It's the most amazing brush. Oh, it's kind of expensive. I think it was like $30 or $40 several years ago, but, and like that one is really wet, so I'm going to make sure that doesn't touch, because I don't want it to bleed from the top down. Okay. So, but I've had this brush for like 4.5 years. I use it almost every day. And it's holding up beautifully. I am so happy with this. Oh, I touched it. See, I don't know if you can see that in the camera, how that bled downwards too. So the way to fix that, I'm going to use a different brush because this one's so well loaded. I'm just going to go ahead and do a little bit of a lift there, and I may have to put some more purple later. But while everything is wet, you can move watercolor around a little bit. You can add, subtract. It won't erase, and you can't go over it perfectly like you do with acrylics or oils, but you can fix some mistakes. All right, so I'm going to let that dry before I fiddle around with it too much. Okay, and let's see, we got 2 more to do. One here. And then one here. So I'm being sure to use just the very tip of this brush. And because this brush has got such a nice fat barrel, the barrel of the brush right here, the water is streaming into the point. So if you're finding that you don't have enough paint going to be able to do a straight line like that, it's probably your brush. It's either too small or it's too narrow. Let's see, what's another one? It's a good example. Like, these are my favorites, these silvers, and this is dry. You see how fluffy it is in the middle? It almost is frayed right there. It holds all the water there and goes to a very nice point. Let's see that beautiful point. And so there's a lot of water in there. So when you're looking for, if you're looking to update your brushes, be looking for those things. Soft, you know, it's got to have some nice softness to it. The Aqua Elites have a pretty good spring. They're not super sloppy. I'll actually have to do a whole tutorial on brush choices. Like, oh my God, how do you choose? And it took me years to figure that out. So I will help you with that in another short. All right, so now is the time for the leaves. So I'm going to use a scratch piece of paper here. And with the point, whatever side you have, if you start soft and then press and then lift. Start soft, press, and lift. You'll get some very, very nice leaves. Now, this is a fairly large brush, so I'm going to have to be careful. So again, I always say, try to work with the biggest brush that you can handle, that you can maneuver. And then work backwards from there. But do your best to stay as large of a brush that you feel like you can handle, because that'll help you to stay more loose, and it'll feel more alive and realistic and soft and all of those little things. So all I'm doing is just generically, and I want those leaves to be rough. You can do perfect leaves if you want, but that's not the look I'm looking for here. But yeah, I could sit and go like this and soften, you know, make it more rounded. But I kind of like that rough look that it's leaving behind. So I'm going to leave that alone. And I'm going to add just a touch more Prussian blue, because I want these to be a little more dark. Because again, I'm not looking for uniform. You're probably going to come in here. Just wherever you think they need to be. There's no rule. Let's see, this guy doesn't have one. One up here. And this one's behind, so it's going to kind of go like that. All right. Yeah, oh, maybe I could do another one here. What do you think? Do more? But see how the brush is doing all of the work here? And how just natural and soft these look. And now I also noticed in the wilds. Oh, did you see that? Oh my goodness. All right, let's fix that. It landed right in the middle of the purple. Now I have 2 purple things to fix. I'm not worried about that. I can just make that part of the grass. So now I've got 2 purple flowers to fix. Not a problem. So there we go. We'll just let it dry. You see what's happening with this guy down here? See how it dried? And that'll do about the same in the middle there. All right, let's go ahead and fix this one down here. It's dry now. It's like 80 degrees already, and it's, what, 12 o'clock? So we're doing good. So I'm just going to paint it in. Very little water. This is very creamy paint. We're not looking for dimensions and all of that with this. The splatter and the leaves are going to create that thickness and that awesomeness that makes this one look this way. All right, let's see. That's not dry enough to really do. So I'm going to let that one alone. Okay. All right. Now, if you wanted to, you can use a smaller brush like this. If you wanted to, you could take, and I like the idea of just kind of putting a bottom to these little dudes. They're dry enough, and at this point, I need some more. Need some more paint. Need more paint. Okay. And just kind of putting a little tilde at the base of each one of these so that it's not just sitting there floating. Ooh, be very careful with that one. You see, just so that there's a bottom to them. You can do them any way you want to because these flowers don't really exist. I have no idea what kind they are. See, it just kind of pulls the stem together with the bottom of the flower. Now I can't see if that's dry enough right there. Yeah, it's dry enough. I don't care if it bleeds in from the bottom. Just don't want it bleeding in from the top. All right, rinse your brush. Okay, second to last thing to do now is the grass. Now, you could use a brush like this. This would make this way easier. It's a liner brush, and again, the higher the quality, the more water it'll hold. But this is just a script or a liner brush, or what is it? Can't think of the name. Rigger brush. So it's just long and narrow. You could use that. I'm going to go ahead and use the tip of this, just because it's just to show you it can be done, I guess. And you're just going to flick. And even if you go over the top of some of the flowers, not the end of the world, but just kind of, because grass is not even and perfect. It just kind of is what it is. Try to keep it in the lines. Keep it in the lines. Okay, some of that purple, because I want it to be like olivey. Now, purple is working because the opposite colors, they're called complementary, and they dull whatever color it is you're trying to mute. I guess muting is the word. and it works just beautifully. And purple has got enough red in it, and of course it's got enough blue in it, so that it looks very natural to make it more of that olivey color that you're seeing here. So I'm just periodically adding a little more of the green gold, light green, I guess you could say. Don't forget to get behind these little guys, and you're just flicking up. There's no rule. Okay, now that is it. I'm going to make sure once it's dry that this one's looking okay and that one's doing okay. But at this moment, you either got to make it dry or let it dry, as my favorite Lacey would say. So I'm going to go ahead and blow dry this real quick, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I have decided that I'm going to leave that as it is, and I actually like the way that looks. See, some of these have just got just the natural kind of lift, and I'm going to do that with some of these. Just kind of wet them a little bit and do a little bit of lifting, because to me these purple ones came out real flat. You don't need to do this, and that's fine. I'm just showing you some alternatives and options and things. It doesn't look bad with the deal like that, but I just thought it'd be fun to lift and brighten a couple of these little guys. Can you hear the doggies barking out there? All right, now for me, the most fun part is the splatter. Now get the crap out of your way, because it's going to make a mess. So using all 4 of your colors, I'm going to do a little bit of green. And you can use your finger, slap, 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 and it's going over the whole thing, flowers and all. Okay? Watch your clothes, because your clothes, it could come back and snap at you. Paul Clark, he's one of my favorite teachers online. He does it, and he can make it go in every direction he wants without what looks like it doesn't make a mess. I'm so jealous. All right, now I'm doing the purple. And use your finger, tap, tap, tap. The more water you use, the bigger the splats, the lighter the splats will be. Okay, now this brush has got quite the point on it, so it's really going to keep the smaller splatters. Let me use a thicker brush. It's also a size 12, but it doesn't have the point, and it's not a long round. So let me show you the difference. They're both size 12, and one is a long round, and one is just a size 12 round. So I'll try that and show you what that looks like. I just splattered right there. We'll use the teal. Pick up a good amount of that teal. Make sure your brush is loaded. One thing, you'll see this all the time with watercolor artists. They pick up their paint, and they sit and swoosh it around, swish it around, swish it around. Sometimes it can drive me crazy watching them just swish, 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 swish. What they're doing is loading that barrel. So there's just a ton of paint all the way up into the barrel, and the water and the paint is really thick on there, and that's what they're doing. Now when I do this, you're going to see the splatters are going to be bigger. See how much bigger they are? Okay, and if I add a little bit more water to it, they're really going to splat. I don't know if you can tell the difference on the camera the way that is, but the splatters of the teal is they're fatter, if that makes sense. All right, so I splattered with green, with teal, and with the purple. I'm trying to debate if I want to do the lime green or the green gold. I think I will. Now, if they're too wet, if the splatters are super wet, they're going to run into each other. And in this particular picture, I don't know that it matters that it does, but if you care, I would let each layer of splatter dry, okay? Because if they touch, they're going to kind of run together. if you don't care and that's part of what you want it to look, then let her go. All right. Now, no picture is complete without a signature. This is done. This is all done. I'm going to use purple and teal. It'll make like a grayish blue, almost like a purple denim color. It's kind of neat. And give my little signature down here. Now my little thing, and I always put the month and the year. Okay, and then I always do a little star. This little star is kind of like my signature. Everybody has their own way of doing it. And I'm always jealous of people who can do their initials really cool. But that little star has been my little flair since I was a kid. And one of these days I'll have to tell you the story of how that came about. But there you go. Do we want to do the pull? Because, you know, the tape pull is always so much fun. It's still very wet, so I'm going to be very careful. And if you notice, I'm pulling at like a 45-degree angle. I'm not going straight across. I'm doing a 45-degree angle. That'll take your chances of ripping the paper down to almost nothing. If you've got some sort of tape that sticks too much, ooh, that could be a real problem. There's nothing worse than, and I've done it, pulling your tape and tearing your final piece. All right, there you have it. And now you know what I'll be teaching on the June 3rd. Very cool. And I can't thank you enough for visiting with me, and I hope you learned something. And, you know, like and share and do all that fun stuff. But most importantly, would you tell me what you found to be the most beneficial piece of this? I mean, what part of this video helped you the most in your watercolor journey? Because you giving me some feedback is going to make all the difference in the world, so I can keep improving and continue to bring all of this to you. So I love you, and I will talk to you again real soon. Mwah! Bye-bye now.